A long train speeds over a viaduct in the countryside.
I was 8 years old when I saw my first cup final. My dad and my granddad took me on the train to Wembley to watch our beloved Leicester play Manchester City. I cried all the way home. Losing hurt so much. But in an era of Champions League superstars, do people still care? Do the fans still dream of drawing a big club, of slaying a giant? Do the players dream of the Wembley Arch, like I once dreamt of the Twin Towers? Do the chairmen still pray for a lucrative draw at Anfield or Old Trafford? Is the cup still about glory and romance and carving your name in history? I set off in search of the soul of the FA Cup. To talk to the people touched by the cup's wonder, its passion, sometimes its pain. To see if it still means as much to them as it did to me as a boy, and still does now.
Gary Lineker, on the road to FA Cup glory. The sun casts shadows of a wooden fence onto bare earth. A man leads a horse along a lane. People ride horses along a muddy lane, and Gary follows on behind. Manor House Stables, Cheshire. A blacksmith working with a horseshoe.
We have about 90 odd horses on site.
Are they like footballers? They're all different sort of behaviours?
Definitely, yeah. The only thing is they don't talk back to you, so you've got to be able to spot signs, haven't you? But yeah, you get some naughty ones that you've got to keep in line. And these are pretty fit animals at the moment. They're only about 3 weeks from starting out their season.
A few Champions League horses.
Oh yes, yeah. Let's hope so. Yeah, that's the plan. Now we've obviously got all kinds. It's probably one of the leading yards now in Britain, which is really fulfilling, I suppose. Yeah.
A rider gallops speedily across a field. To Michael Owen.
When you were young, the FA Cup, was that big in your life?
It was the only thing in many ways. Every time I kicked a ball in the back garden, Michael Owen in the cup final, scoring for Everton, and I say Everton. Obviously, I've told you before that you're my hero, but it was always Gary Lineker, and then it was Michael Owen at the end, and then I'd smack it into the garage or in the garden wall. And the FA Cup was, it was the day. It was the day of the year. It was the day that all the family came round. It was the barbecue in the back garden.
When did you start to think, actually, I might play in this?
I've never doubted that I would, if I'm honest. I always knew I was going to be a footballer. It's easy to say it now, but I did, and my dad knew it. And when you have that belief that it's going to happen one day, you've got a far greater chance.
2001 FA Cup final, Arsenal v Liverpool, Cardiff.
That one day, in my whole career, in fact, was one day I just thought, does it get any better? It doesn't get any better. The day was baking hot, and we were playing against a seriously good team in Arsenal, and you'd have to say that they deserved to win, and that's what made it even better, because when you snatch victory, when when possibly you didn't deserve to. I went into that game in really good form. I was banging the goals in towards the end of that season, and I just knew if I got one chance I'd be able to do it. And when that first chance fell and I tucked it away, you could just see that Arsenal had thrown everything at us and we were still there, and now they weren't leading and they just slumped.
And there's the shot, and there's the equaliser. Michael Owen.
I just knew that after I scored that goal, there was only going to be one result.
This is Berger, and Robbie Fowler looks sprightly now, wants the ball played early, but so does Owen, and he's getting the other side of Dixon. Michael Owen for Liverpool. Yes! Oh, he's done it! What incredible few minutes for Michael Owen! Unbelievable stuff!
I just don't know what I did. I did a handspring that I never did since I was about 5 years old.
Precisely about that. I mean, I've watched your celebrations hundreds of times, but I've never seen you do that.
I've never done it, that's why. It was just something that I can't explain. The excitement that was just coursing through my veins was just the adrenaline and everything in front of your own crowd, knowing that all your family are right behind that goal. And knowing that that's it, it was in the last few seconds. I mean, they weren't coming back from it, and we're going to lift that cup. A lot of people say best moment of your career, and you can roll off hat-tricks in Munich and goals in World Cups, and that won us the FA Cup. That moment, if you say have one day back in your career, I'd want to rewind to that day.
Film of Michael holding the silver FA Cup. The heads of horse riders bob along under a pale grey sky.
You cannot replicate the feeling of scoring a goal.
No.
You just can't do it.
No.
You search and search and search, and you can't do it. But having a horse winning on a big day is something similar, you know, in terms of getting 50%, but never will you get that feeling again. No. Sad, isn't it? It's depressing, isn't it?
But do you know why that feeling's so special? Because you never knew when it was going to happen anyway.
That's right.
But I suppose now you just know it's not.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
Shadows of horses glide past.
I never played in the early rounds of the FA Cup. These pre-Christmas games are where the milkmen dream about playing against the millionaires. I've come to Cheltenham in the heart of Gloucestershire, a place more famous for horses than footballing heroes. Their opponents are non-league Dover from the very edge of the nation. There's nothing regional about the FA Cup. It's truly democratic. You get drawn out of the hat and you go where the fates take you.
FA Cup second round, Cheltenham Town v Dover Athletic, December 7th, 2014.
Is playing a non-league team a bit of a nightmare for you at this stage? Would you prefer in some sort of way to play a team in the league you're in, or even the league above? If you lose to these, it's almost disastrous.
It is, because no matter which way I try and turn it or put a twist on it, they're the underdogs, and they'll be thinking that there's a scalp here for them. And if we're not right, there will be.
Cheltenham team meeting, 90 minutes before kick-off.
Do not go back onto the line. Pick your man up. He drops down, he's going to put it in the net, and you're going to be near enough.
And these players, they might, on Monday, be looking forward to a game against Manchester United, against Chelsea, against Arsenal, Liverpool, one of the huge teams.
Yeah, so it makes me smile already, you mentioning those. That's what we want.
Manager Paul Buckle.
What better motivation than those having a chance of playing those type of players and teams, either here or away. Every tackle, every header, every run, that's got to be in their mind. Today's a huge game for the club, and I've got to make the players aware of that.
A set of floodlights, handing over money for tickets, and an old-fashioned turnstile. Paul Baker, chairman, Cheltenham Town.
I must be nervous today. I'm really nervous today because I know how important it is financially. The third round, as you know, the Premiership clubs come in, and in the past we've been very fortunate. A few years ago we went down to White Hart Lane, and more recently than that we played Everton here. And those sort of games for us, with the TV cameras and things, generate about £250,000. Last year we lost to Tamworth in the first round, and we made £3,000.
£250,000. I mean, that's a week's wages for a top world-class player. In terms of the salary and what you pay these players, how far would that go?
I'm really glad you asked that, because Wayne Rooney earns in a month what my entire playing squad gets in a year. And that is just the difference between the Premiership and the Football League.
So basically a big third round tie pretty much, you know, pays a large part of your whole year's salary.
Absolutely. It means chairman can sleep at night, to be honest.
Gary wanders into the Dover Athletic dressing room 45 minutes before kick-off.
How you doing? You all right? How are you? All right? Nowadays, you know, there are other things to compete with it, but it's still got a magic, hasn't it? Especially for non-league teams, I would say.
It's not about the money, it's about the prestige.
Funny enough, I talked to Cheltenham, and it largely is about the money. Well, they say this can pay for their salaries for a year, and it can make a big difference. You can bring in new players. It's not the same for Dover.
We don't own any money. We've got a grade A football ground, so if they're playing with a bit of fear and they need the money, we haven't got that worry. So hopefully that will swing it in our way.
Chris Kinnear, Dover Athletic manager. Then the Cheltenham Robin mascot waves to the crowd.
We told the manager, and the manager's very much aware that there'll be no strengthening of the squad in January unless we can do well in the FA Cup. And it is that important, and we will make a loss this year unless we do well in the FA Cup.
If you said to me, would you take the worst performance in the history of Cheltenham Town Football Club, but we win, I'll take it now.
Most of us don't realise the importance of a cup run to clubs in the lower leagues. For Cheltenham, today would define their season. Make it through to the third round and the club could bring in new faces and look to push on. But fear of failure gripped their football.
Then, score. Dover have scored. Good goal as well.
Cheltenham's Paul Baker stares grimly ahead.
Dejection for Cheltenham, sheer delight for non-league Dover. Time to dream of a big third-round draw.
I remember you don't know what you're doing.
The Dover dressing room.
Who would you like to face?
Probably West Ham, because
West Ham?
well, I teach in the East End of London, don't I? So you just walk up the road and all the kids from school could come. But anybody.
You play really well. Well done, all of you. Congratulations.
We didn't play very well, to be honest. I know.
Gary grins and laughs at the banter.
For most non-league players, the cup means the third round. Playing in the final is unthinkable. But for one South Londoner, supporting a young family and thinking his chance had gone, the FA Cup provided a stage for the late flowering of his prodigious talent.
When I signed for Palace, I was living in this block of flats, Kentwell, number 11. And it was a really nice place to grow up. There's a lot of footballing people around here. Everything was driven by football around here. The boys used to play there, Sean and Bradley used to play. I used to play FA Cup on there.
Brockley, South London, January 2015. In a cafe with Ian Wright.
You got your real opportunity at Crystal Palace. How big a part of your life was the FA Cup 1990?
I'd broken my leg twice that season. And as much as I was working hard to try and get fit, I just didn't think it was going to happen. And it was the FA Cup final. I'm thinking it was the game of my life. It was the game I'd watch. I've never missed one. In the end, I got on the bench.
And when he said to you, you're going to be on the bench, were you happy or...?
Distraught.
Really?
Distraught. Yeah. I thought I might not get on. And by the time I do get on, the game might be over.
1990 FA Cup final.
A ricochet, Hughes! 2-1 to Manchester United.
Get me on, man. You know, so 60 minutes is gone. 65 minutes, then 70 minutes is gone.
Crystal Palace are going to make a change.
When the substitution's made, I am so angry when I'm running on there, right? My face is so, like, angry.
Ian Wright, this is his moment now to prove that he's fit and able to make a contribution.
And then within 3 minutes, I scored.
Now here's Wright, his first chance to show what he can do. And he's through, it's Wright! Oh, what an impact by the substitute! It's 2-2!
The whole of Brockley and everybody would have been locked down watching to see if I'm going to come on, and then...
They'd be thrilled for you, yeah.
It was unbelievable. So to get on, and then you score after 3 minutes.
Ian Wright, who has sent the Palace supporters into ecstasy.
My heart was pounding out, and I remember falling on the floor, and I remember crying, and the tears came, and then you got yourself going. All the lads came on me, and I think what kind of like snapped me out was the fact that I don't like when lots of people are bundling me.
That has to go down as one of the classic individual cup final goals.
For about 5-6 minutes, I was outside of myself watching myself.
2-2, extra time, 30 more minutes for Ian Wright to add to the drama.
Wright! Goal! It's Ian Wright again!
May I say, what a fine goal it was.
It's 3-2 to Crystal Palace.
I didn't celebrate in the same way because all of a sudden now, we've got a chance of winning. Then 7 minutes to go.
Hughes goes through the middle, chance here for 3-3. Mark Hughes!
Was their equaliser one of the worst moments of your career?
Easily. Easily. And then when you consider what happened in the second game, it's definitely.
Do you wish there'd been a penalty shootout?
No, I wish it finished. I wish it finished with me scoring the winning goal. I felt like I'd done enough for it to be finished.
1990 FA Cup final replay.
Lee Martin from left back, an inspired run on the far side. A chance here and a goal! Manchester United have won the FA Cup. Paris slumped to the ground.
We have something in common. We both lost our first cup final and then won our second. But there's a fear there, isn't there? When you go into your second one, you think, I've got to win this time. Your first one's almost about the experience, isn't it, and the occasion. The second one, you've got to win.
I was so petrified of losing again. I didn't want to be somebody who got there and never won it.
Smith for Wright, he's through here. It's Wright for Arsenal. And it's a goal for Arsenal. Ian Wright yet again.
What does the FA Cup mean to you?
The FA Cup made me dream of being a footballer. I still think it's the greatest thing ever.
A sign reading no ball games.
The third round, for many the best weekend in the football calendar. And not far from where Ian Wright grew up, a team from League Two await the arrival of Premier League giants.
Kingsmeadow.
There are a lot of FA Cup cliches, and one of them is, this is what the FA Cup's all about. But when it comes to the third round, this really is what it's all about. This is AFC Wimbledon. They're playing against Liverpool. Alan Shearer's working with me this evening for what we're hoping will be obviously a giant killing. We shall see. But it's what the little clubs look forward to and what the big clubs don't look forward to, isn't it?
And it's why we're here, because we expect, or we hope, that there can be a little bit of an upset tonight, and it would be one hell of an upset. It is just a different feeling about going to the early rounds in the FA Cup. It's a great feeling. I used to love playing in games like this.
With a big club, it's about pride, isn't it? It's so embarrassing, isn't it? You lose to a lower league club, you just get it in the neck.
You've got to turn up, you've got to do the business, you've got to get out as quick as possible, hopefully with a win and into the next round.
Do you think a lot of top flight clubs that are wrong to leave players out, play weaker teams? Do you think it's slightly disrespectful, perhaps, to the competition? Because there was a time when it was the big thing.
I think it's totally wrong. The FA Cup is a huge competition, and certainly been a Newcastle fan and having played for Newcastle, I'm sick and tired of Newcastle going out in the early rounds because of playing a weakened team.
There was no doubting Liverpool's intentions. A strong side, taking no chances. Steven Gerrard chose this week to announce he would be leaving the club. The Liverpool captain seemed determined to drag his team towards Wembley.
To Manquillo, looking for Gerrard again! He writes his own scripts. This week of all weeks, it had to be the Liverpool captain to give them the lead.
The crowd stands as players prepare for a corner.
Mignolet missed it, off the bar, and put in by Akinfenwa. Wimbledon have been knocking on the door, they've been threatening from crosses and set pieces, and now one's paid off. It's the beast. She's over the wall, and Shea doesn't get there. Steven Gerrard scores his second of the night, and for the second time tonight, gives Liverpool the lead.
AFC Wimbledon 1, Liverpool 2. After the match,
Game, that wasn't it? Well, good game. Proper game. Proper game. Which way is it going? This way?
FA Cup third round replay 1972.
There are 15,000 people in this ground. It's packed to capacity. A lot of people without tickets, and that's just one of them.
John, you've lived through a few FA Cups in your time. It played an important part in your emergence as a commentator, didn't it, John?
Well, yes, it did, and in fact, but for that Ronnie Radford goal, I might not be standing here with you today,
Do you
Gary.
really think
I
that?
really believe that. I mean, my career was in the balance, if you like.
Radford. Radford again. Oh, what a goal! What a goal! Radford the scorer. Ronnie Radford. And the crowd are invading the pitch.
My match was propelled to the top of the show, and I think they thought, oh, maybe this young guy can handle a big game.
Harry could have done it. Well, what a cut tie.
What were your favourite memories?
Well, I think Ricky Villa in 1981 in the replay.
Still Ricky Villa. What a fantastic run. He scored. Amazing goal.
It was a great moment for Wembley and for the FA Cup.
Di Matteo shoots. Oh, what about this? What about this?
97. Di Matteo scored in, what was it, 42 seconds, and the fastest ever Wembley goal then.
Allen, Clive Allen. Bennett, David Bennett. And Goff's there, and Mallett was there, and it's got in.
Coventry 3, Tottenham 2, 1987.
Houchin, brilliant goal.
That was a pure football quality final. The purists would have enjoyed that.
Oh, Mallett, it's an own goal.
I guess the other one would be Wimbledon-Liverpool.
And Sanchez was in there, and that's a goal for Wimbledon. The Crazy Gang have beaten the Culture Club.
The Culture Club and the Crazy Gang line that you delivered at the end, had you planned that before?
No, I hadn't. I don't know where that came from.
Really?
Because you wouldn't have expected Wimbledon to have won.
No.
But that's how it turned out.
One of the great cup shocks of all time.
A quarter of a century after Wimbledon shocked Liverpool, Wigan Athletic, on the brink of relegation, faced champions Manchester City. They were given no chance.
This trophy gives you an opportunity to create special moments. You've got your own memory and you got your own moment and you could make your own film.
Did you ever believe it would be possible for a club like Wigan, that haven't been around that long in the Football League, let alone the top flight, to actually win the FA Cup?
No, I don't think you can sit down and I'm optimistic by nature, but even I would struggle to sit down and say, yes, we want to win the FA Cup.
Into added time, Maloney's corner, played into the near post, headed in by Watson! Watson's header has won the FA Cup final for Wigan Athletic, a team that were in the Northern Premier League 35 years ago. What a day in their history!
What about the emotions when it hit the net?
Well, straight away, as a manager, you're not allowed to enjoy those moments because you're thinking, how are we going to be organised, how we can see it.
It wasn't long left.
It wasn't long left, but it seemed long.